Yeah, Cyclone Gabrielle is off the Northland coast. It's forecast to move south. It'll get to about Great Barrier Island, maybe just to the east, but somewhere near Great Barrier Island very late tonight in the pre-dawn hours of Tuesday. And then it'll continue kind of east and south, eventually getting close to East Cape sometime late on Tuesday afternoon. So what that means for Hawke's Bay is a lot of rain, a lot of wind. So the winds are going to be very strong overnight tonight, Monday night into Tuesday morning. Winds will be gusting upwards, particularly coastal areas and higher elevations, near and above 100 kilometers per hour as we get into the overnight hours Monday and into the past midnight hours of Tuesday morning. So there'll be a good 12-hour period where the winds gust very strongly, and that'll no doubt have big impacts on infrastructure, such as power outages, tree limbs coming down, overall wind damage. And that wind coming off the water is going to carry rain, a lot of rain. So areas inland, so over the ranges to the west and north over Hawke's Bay, are likely to see by, say, early Wednesday morning, midnight Wednesday, so late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, and upwards of 300 to 400 millimeters of rainfall, which is multiple times, two, three, four times what would normally fall during the month of February. So we're squeezing double, triple, or more what would fall in the month of February into about a day. So the risk for flooding is certainly high, slips, things of that nature. Near the coast itself, near Napier, Hastings, right along the coast itself, rain not as impressive, but still quite high, near and maybe even more than 100 millimeters. It's the whole area. Yeah, I don't think there's any really separating one over the other. Certainly not the ability to distinguish, if one town 5 Ks away or 20 Ks away gets a stronger wind gust than the other. I think everyone's pretty much at an equal risk for getting damaging wind gusts and to get flooding rainfall. The rain is going to be heaviest over the hills and the ranges interior to the west and northwest. So the slips will be certainly high there, but that water has to work its way through the tributaries into the sea. And that water trying to pass through at high tide certainly could raise the risk for coastal flooding. We do have to be mindful of the potential for coastal inundation, a storm surge. There is some chance that some areas could see a storm surge as high as a half meter. And if that half meter storm surge were to coincide with high tide, as all that water's trying to leave the mountainous terrain inland, that could certainly elevate the chance for flooding in low-lying areas. So it really is the timing of when that high tide occurs relative to when there's a storm surge, if there is one, as well as the water's draining out. So things do have to come together for a worst-case scenario, but we do have to be aware of that. Either way, even if that were not to eventuate or materialize, the fact that the wind and the rain will be producing enough impacts as it is. So yeah, either way you slice it, it's going to be a rough night and a rough Tuesday for much of Hawke's Bay. Things will get better in terms of the rain on Tuesday, and the winds will ease later in the afternoon on Tuesday, remaining gusty. So I would say by Tuesday afternoon, the wind's easing. They may crank up a bit briefly Tuesday night, but the worst of the weather, quite frankly, is probably going to be from roughly 6 o'clock in the evening on Monday through about, I'd say, 6 a.m. on Tuesday, maybe midday Tuesday. So in that kind of 12 to 24-hour period. Comparable, I suppose. I mean, the Coromandel will be getting a lot of rain. The hills, the Coromandel Forest Park, that mountainous region, 300 to 500 millimeters of rainfall for this event. The Gisborne Ranges, just to your north, over North Gisborne toward East Cape, they could see an excess of a half meter of rain, and they'll get strong wind. Auckland will be getting damaging winds and flooding rains and slips upwards of 150 to 250 millimeters. So the ranges in Hawke's Bay will probably get more rain than, say, Auckland will, but Auckland may get more wind, or at least wind for a longer period. So either way you slice it, everyone's pretty much affected by this. Yeah, it's tough to say because this hasn't really happened yet, so it's hard to make comparisons. That was a very localized event, if I recall, that Napier flood. This is certainly more widespread, wide scale, so it'll affect many more people. Yeah, there's certainly, I imagine, is extreme weather fatigue, certainly across the North Island, Upper North Island, like Auckland, because of the succession of big rain events. Yeah, it's not been a great summer, so I can imagine if people are really in the spirits that perhaps they would be normally in mid-February, later in summer. But hopefully after this passes by Wednesday and Thursday, we'll get into some summer weather. I think we certainly deserve it.